Officer Bent, please stand. Raise your right hand. Do you promise that the testimony you shall give in the case before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Defendant's advocate, you have 10 minutes to proceed. Please start.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you please state your name to the court?
Yes, my name is Pit Bent.
What's your current employment status?
So I was a former police officer at Zaltano Police Station for 9 years, but I don't work there anymore.
Why don't you work there anymore?
Yeah, I quit the job because I saw many improper things that they did during the case investigations. So I didn't want to be a part of that.
Thank you, Bent. On 1st March 2020, where were you?
I was on duty and received a call to proceed to a traffic checkpoint to provide backup to two officers who had stopped the vehicle.
Moving to the next question. After you arrived at the checkpoint, what happened?
So I saw Senior Officer Strait interviewing two individuals, and she proceeded to frisk them. And I don't recall that Senior Officer Strait ever informing the two individuals that they had the right to an advocate or that they didn't have to speak with her.
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
Okay, can you, excuse me, explain your objection?
Much obliged, Your Honor. Your Honor, here former Officer Bent is testifying to a statement or the silence of Officer Strait. Hearsay can be either an out-of-court statement made by someone to prove the truth of the matter or the lack of a statement made by someone to prove the truth of the matter asserted. Officer Bent's this testimony is totally dependent on what he heard and what he says about what he heard. Hearing nothing is also hearing a silence in this case, and we submit that this evidence should be excluded by reasons of hearsay.
Okay, would the defense like to respond to that argument?
Yes, Your Honor, I totally agree with the prosecutor that it's an hearsay, but it's an exception to hearsay. It's a statement against interest. Your Honor, in the cross-examination, Mr. Strait claimed that he informed those rights to my client. Here, Mr. Bent is just stating what he has witnessed, so it's clearly an exception to the hearsay, statement against interest.
Okay, judges? Well, first of all, I think this is a good objection. I think in both the objection explanation and the response are very good and sound responses. It is true that the absence of a statement can, in this context, could be viewed as hearsay as well. I think it's a close call on this, and because if we admit the evidence, we run the risk that it will be used to argue that Officer Strait that he did not offer Eltra Parker an advocate or state that silence was not necessary. I think this could also go to the state of mind of Officer Strait as well. So my view, although I want to hear from or make sure the judges agree with me, I think for, again, purposes of this pre-trial hearing, and again, there may be a different ruling at trial, but for purposes of this hearing and for us to determine whether the evidence would come in and for us to balance the probabilities, I'm willing to let the evidence come in, but I want to make sure that the defense understands that it can come in as evidence of the state of mind of Officer Bent or maybe a statement against interest, but it should not be argued that because Officer Bent did not hear this, that necessarily means that Officer Straight did not offer an advocate. So I don't know if the other judges agree with that or would like to discuss it further.
I agree with that, although my reasoning is a bit different. What we're dealing with here, I don't think the defence is seeking to admit this as evidence of the truth of anything Officer Straight said. It's evidence as to whether or not Officer Straight offered Eltra Parker an advocate. So in my view, it doesn't fall within the rule against hearsay. In my view, the objection should be overruled. The evidence should go in.
Okay, well, that was a healthy debate, and so we're going to overrule the objection. We'll allow the testimony. But again, I think it goes to the weight of the evidence and should not be argued that just because Officer Bent had this observation that is not completely clear, that necessarily means that Officer Straight did not offer an advocate. But otherwise, you may proceed.
Mr. Bent, so I'm going to repeat the question. So after you arrived at the checkpoint, what happened?
I saw Senior Officer Straight interviewing two individuals, and she proceeded to frisk them. I don't recall that Senior Officer Straight ever informing either the two individuals that they had the right to an advocate or they didn't have to speak with her.
Okay, moving to the next question. What else do you recall from that scene?
Well, I didn't hear 100% of the entire conversation, but I don't recall that Senior Officer Straight ever mentioned to the individuals that they had the right to an advocate and the right to remain silent.
Thank you, Mr. Bent. So at the same frisk search, what else did you see?
At the same time, the individuals were being frisked. I saw Officer 5 take what appeared to be a large plastic baggie to the trunk of police car. I couldn't see what Officer 5 was doing back there, but he spent at least 5 minutes before closing the trunk to lock the evidence and put the evidence back there.
No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Bent.
Thank you. Would the prosecution like to cross-examine this witness?
Yes, Your Honor, the prosecution would like to cross-examine this witness.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, Officer Bent, am I audible to you?
Yes.
Thank you. How are you? How are you today, Officer Bent?
I'm fine. Thank you.
Thanks for coming here. Okay, Officer Bent, now let me ask this question. According to Jaltanu Police Department, you were fired for drinking on duty. Yes or no?
No, I was not.
Okay. You said that they will tell you that I was fired for drinking on the job. Who do you refer by this word, they?
Yes, it's their statement, not from me.
That's what I'm asking. I understand that you have an opinion and you stated that in your chief examination, but I'm asking you, according to Jaltanu Police Department, you were fired for drinking on the job, correct?
No.
Okay, let me proceed. I understand you're entitled to opinion. Okay, do you recall the incidents of March 1st, 2020?
Yes.
You were there as a backup, in fact, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
So you're saying that you do not recall whether Officer Strait informed the defendant and her partner about her constitutional rights. Am I correct?
Yes.
So you don't recall.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't recall.
And also you said you're not 100% sure that you listened to the entire conversation clearly. Am I correct?
I didn't hear 100% of the entire conversation.
Okay. Thanks. You said Officer 5 took about 5 minutes in front of the car trunk. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. Why is it important?
Yes, it's really important because police officer should take notes description of the evidence where the evidence was found, not in the police car, and it took 5 minutes. There's
No. Why the mention of 5 minutes?
sorry.
Why did you mention 5 minutes?
What do you mean?
Why did you mention that he took 5 minutes?
Yeah, yes, I mentioned in my statement that he took 5 minutes in my sworn statement.
Okay. Did you go and check what he was doing?
No, I was not.
Did anybody stop you from going there?
No,
Did anyone say that you can't go there?
no,
Okay. Okay. How many years you stayed in Zaltano police station?
9 years.
So after 9 years of service, after you were fired on duty, according to Zaltano police station, you have come to the court to testify against your department and your former colleagues. Am I correct?
Yes.
Thank you. No more questions.
Okay, thank you. Does the defense wish to redirect this witness?
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed?
You may.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, Mr. Bent, why didn't you just check on Officer 5 instead of just standing there?
Yeah, well, I was called to the traffic checkpoint as a backup police officer to provide backup at the traffic checkpoint.
Moving to the next question. Prosecutor raised the question about surety of a hearing of the conversation. Why don't you clarify it?
Can you repeat it? I can't hear.
Yeah. Why don't you clarify your surety about hearing the conversation?
Yes, as I said before, I didn't sorry, can you repeat the question?
Okay, I'm repeating the question. How much of the conversation did you hear?
Yeah, well, I didn't hear 100% entire conversation, but I don't recall that Senior Officer Strait ever mentioned those rights to the individuals.
Mr. Bent, in your chief examination, you stated you have seen so many improper things in Jaltana police station. So why did it take 9 years to quit your job?
Well, as I said before, I saw many improper things that they did during the case investigation. So I didn't want to be part of that. And yes, it took 9 years, but at the end of the day, I quit the job.
Thank you, Ms. Bent. No further questions, Your Honor.